Hello, this is Jonathan Hollander, founder and artistic director of Battery Dance in New York. Welcome to Battery Dance TV. Every Sunday, we have a program that includes interviews, performances, and classes focused on international guest artists, leaders in the field who are dealing with the pandemic, the need for social distancing, and the prohibition against gatherings, for example, rehearsals, classes, and of course, live performances. Today, I have the pleasure of having guests who have inspired me for many years. Ramli Ibrahim from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, the artistic director of Sutra Dance Theater, a dancer, choreographer, and teacher who has inspired many around the world. Joseph Gonzalez, currently based at the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts, formerly associated with ASWARA, the National Institute of Performing Arts in Malaysia. These two men have, between the two of them, inspired, taught, and worked with so many artists from international locations as well as within the countries of Malaysia and now in Hong Kong. So I introduce you to these two gentlemen, and we have a very inspiring talk ahead, followed by performances by Sutra Dance Theater and the ASK Dance Company founded by Joseph Gonzalez. Welcome to Battery Dance TV and to our Dance Diplomacy Talk.
This is really exciting for me because it's a reunion of sorts.
Right, very
with
much so.
two people with whom I have had the privilege to collaborate for many, many years, into the 1990s with you, Ramli, and Joseph, I met you for the first time in 2005. So here we are. I know you both from Malaysia, but Joseph, you're now in Hong Kong, and Ramli, of course, you're in Malaysia. So in this talk, we're going to be able to get a sense of what's going on in both countries, and with your institutions, given this very, very unprecedented pandemic, which has caused all of us in the dance field across the world to be in isolation like everyone else. And, you know, it has particular ramifications for us in our field because our field is a physical one and it relies on the interaction between bodies and people that this type of thing is not possible. And we think in New York, it may be extended, quite prolonged. It's been 2 months already. And our festival that both of you know about takes place in August. At first, you know, a month back, we were thinking August, that's a long time away. People will surely be able to gather at that point. Now it's very unlikely. So I'd love to get your insights first about the conditions on the ground where you are to share with our audience. So Joseph, you're in Hong Kong now at the conservatory. Just give us a little bit of the background of what's been going on there for the last couple of months.
Yes, I think, thank you very much for having me. And I feel very honored and humbled to be sharing this space with two highly esteemed gentlemen that I have such great respect for.
It goes both ways.
Thank you.
Or 3 ways.
I cannot begin to explain what this year in Hong Kong has been like. Nobody was able to foresee this. And it goes right back to the beginning of the academic year in 2019, and with all the protests and the street protests that began very peacefully, very beautifully, only on a Sunday, and they were singing beautiful songs, marching very peacefully, and then it turned violent and it turned very ugly, and you know, people's lives were threatened, and we were on high alert, and it was in crisis management from July, August last year, when we would get a report that some train station would be attacked or there would be a gathering in a particular place. And we had to ensure that the students would go back home safely, because a lot of them live between 1 to 2 hours away from the conservatoire. We are right in the heart of, and we are like 200 meters away from the big government buildings. So it's
what is the actual name of the conservatory?
It's the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. And we are right in Wan Chai, which is right next to the government buildings, you know. So this is really a hot spot for protests and the umbrella movement protests began here several years ago. So Hong Kong, interestingly, is a very resilient, brave community of people. They've been through these kinds of situations before that I have not. And then we had 2 glorious weeks in January when we all remembered what it was like to be dancers and be dance teachers and be in studios with young people and life and music and drums. It was so exciting, and all prepared to start, 100% for the second semester. And completely immediately, we got a message from the authorities that, we could not open the school. So we had to emergency meetings. So we were on meetings, the management, like 6 hours a day, trying to plan what we were going to do for the students and how we could support them in this period of time. So we went online teaching almost instantly. And that went on for about a month. So I'll just very briefly tell you. So we did practical classes, strengthening, stretching, some improv.
People were in their own homes or dormitories.
People in their own homes. And the other issue is that we have a housing problem in Hong Kong, right? And houses are really tiny. So there are other issues I will get to later if we have the opportunity. And then now we are into the mode of delivering all our theoretical courses first. So the research methodologies, the presentations, the written work.
So this is the dance department. People
Yes.
are, at what age are they?
And they come to us when they're 17 plus. So
the
it's a 4-year program. It's a degree program. We run a 2-year diploma program and a 2-year master's program as well.
So it's very similar to what you were doing at Aswara.
Yeah, almost identical, but the management is really very different. So it's really been a learning experience for me. So from being quite illiterate of how to use Zoom and all our learning systems, I had to be on courses all the time to make sure I was ready to deliver my classes. So it was really, the learning curve was just phenomenal. And I mean, from that point of view, I really appreciate what I've learned from this experience.
And how did the students cope with all of this disruption?
Yeah, I know, bless them. My heart goes out to them. They are living in a very, very difficult period of Hong Kong's history. They are young people. They want their freedoms. They want to express themselves. They want to be seen as people of this city, as Hong Kongers. They have great pride in their personal identity and their national identity. So it's really tough for them. And learning in confined spaces is very, very difficult. So
yeah, but as dance teachers, we always want people to expand and to understand that they need to project to the back of the theater, not be contained.
Yes, yes.
How do you do that in your kitchen?
Precisely. Yeah. So there were some funny incidents of people kicking over pots and pans and stuff like that, and families walking behind them and people serving dinner and cats and dogs and everything appearing in the class videos. But those are lovely moments, actually. But emotionally,
did people get very fast at muting or at turning off their camera?
They do.
At critical moments.
Yes. Oh, sir, something's wrong with I can't hear you.
Oh, yeah. We know that. So let's switch over quickly to Ramlee and to hear what are the conditions in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and give us a little bit of the last couple of months.
Well, I guess we all of us did not really think that it's going to be just an incredible, mind-blowing pandemic that is going to affect everyone all over the world. We were in the middle of a very big program, our major program called Triple Frontiers, featuring 3 female choreographers from India, the works of female 3 gurus from India, young gurus from India, Parvati Dutta, Meera Das, and also Sujata Mishra. And we were about to start. The program is I think we have a lockdown. We don't call it lockdown, we call the movement control order here on the 18th. And I was
to have
a performance on the 27th of March.
Okay.
So, that was very close because we are all ready with our publicity and all that good thing. But you know, I mean, in Malaysia, I am very much in contact with all my other artists friend, not just from the Indian classical dance scene, but also from the contemporary and also, well, I mean, the other one, from Bilkis to Dua Space of Anthony Yap, and we are very close actually, but I'm not close with the governmental organization, specifically what Joseph had been in Aswara, or the Istana Budaya, which is really near my house. But they are having an incredible kind of infrastructural problem in the first place because of the change of government. So since
okay.
we have not had, you know, we've not had any funding for such a long time, I think Jonathan, but the artists of Malaysia, the performing artists of Malaysia, were charting their own narratives, quite in a way happily charting their own narratives, because, you know, we've come to a stage where we just say that, oh, there's no funding, so we've got to do it our own, you know. So we are going on that. But when the actual MCO came, I, being the way I am, I took it, you know, this is a good time for everybody to be a bit more reflective, because they have been working too hard. You know, we've been going overseas, we've been touring all over India, I've been giving talks and all those kind of things. And, you know, I actually found that the first 3 weeks so enjoyable, just doing kind of gardening, reading, and looking at archival materials that we have, playing with my pets and things like that.
A kind of lifestyle that you have never had in the last decade.
I've been just, you know, but I'm very lucky, as you know, that I've got the space, you know. So, but we of course hear all kinds of other, the problematic area comes from people who are what they call the B40, the people who have to depend on their daily wages and things like that. But, you know, a lot of my friends ask me, okay, why don't you do online classes and things like that? I think they went immediately on it without really conceiving properly what the online classes, how effective that could be. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't know, you know, I mean, I was not keen on the online classes, and I thought that everyone should really be reflective, because I have been giving my kids too much on their plates. And they are already like over rehearsed over this just before the performance. So you know, what I was doing during this time, and you saw one of the things where we mentioned a battery dance company, was just looking at our archival materials and recommunicated that to a lot of our friends of Sutra, for instance, and just say that, you know, look at what we had also done last time, and how you know, a lot of things are being done going forward without thinking of looking back at our past.
Well, I find that that's a typical state of mind for artists. We're on a treadmill. We have the next production in mind as we're finishing the one before.
Yes.
Both of you are teaching. Joseph, give us the thumbnail of who you are. What institutions you've been with?
Right. Well, I worked at the National Arts Academy for about 22 years.
In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Kuala Lumpur, and 16 of which I was the Dean of the School of Dance. And then I moved over to Hong Kong, where I am the Head of Academic Studies and the MFA program at this conservatoire here now.
Okay.
But at the same time, in 2011, I registered a private limited dance company that comprised about, let's say, 8 to 10 graduates of the school.
In Malaysia.
In Malaysia, and that's still running, and that is something that that I'm very passionate about. And we have really faced serious issues because we've got to pay rent, and I've got to see that these students and these dancers get their monthly wages, because they all have a monthly wage, and which usually comes also from having to do commercial work. And we have some sponsorship from various organizations. But interestingly, we were also preparing for a performance on the same day as Sutra Dance Theatre, and it was called Three Faces, and we had to cut that as well. So, you know.
Okay, so our audience will understand that you're a Malaysian. You were at the National Academy in Malaysia for all those years as dean and so forth, and then you switched over to Hong Kong. And
Yes.
Ramli, give that same kind of overview of your background.
Yes, yes. Well, presently I am the chairman of Sutra Foundation that was in a way formed in 2007, but I had founded the Sutra Dance Theatre since 1984. So
in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
In Kuala Lumpur. Well, it's all, my activities are mainly in Kuala Lumpur. So I not only dance, I still dance. I still dance in India. I just came back from India, dancing there before the COVID pandemic. And at the same time, I choreographed. I'm also artistic director of many things. So I teach also. So I take many hats. And at Sutra Foundation, we have a studio. We have also a gallery that we have several exhibitions of paintings, drawings, photography. So, you know, we cover quite a number of areas.
And you're located right in the middle of the city.
Right in the middle of the city.
But it's
yes.
still a kind of oasis, as I recall, with an
Yes.
amphitheater in the nature that you've
Right.
preserved in a city
Yes.
that is now chock full of skyscrapers. So
Yes.
coming to your place is like coming into an oasis of dance, of art.
Perhaps.
You know,
Perhaps.
and
When
it's
you
a
open the
different
door,
air.
yes.
The oxygen is different there.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say so, Joseph?
Oh, every single visitor, an arts friend of mine that comes, I will make sure that a visit to Sutra Dance Theatre is on the cards. You know,
Yeah.
it's something that they have to see, for them to experience and understand how valuable it is to the ecosystem of our nation, and how challenging it is to sustain that. You know, so it's definitely something that I love doing. And
I think that, you know, just hearing this part of our conversation reminds me of something, which is that an individual can make so much of a difference. Like both of you have devoted your lives to dance. You have taken different channels and pathways, but the unstinting and unending inspiration and vision that you both have, and your charisma and your personal sort of radiance has infused so many students, and I call them students, but these are all full-fledged artists at this point that you have nurtured. And the impact to the United States, to Australia, to London, to, you know, to Europe is very palpable. And being in New York and knowing the two of you for so long, I can see this impact that, you know, I think many people in our audience probably are not familiar with Hong Kong. They're not familiar with Malaysia. They either haven't been there or they couldn't even find Malaysia on the map. And on the other hand, the impact that I've had the privilege of seeing in terms of your activation of art, the art of dance, is very, very exciting. I guess my question now would be, given this context of the difficulty of the pandemic and the need to isolate, even when people come back, there's going to be, it's a new reality. What do you see that reality as being, Joseph, at the Hong Kong Conservatoire?
yes, the situation in Hong Kong is different from that in Malaysia. Hong Kong receives a phenomenal amount of corporate and government support for the arts. So there are full-time companies such as Hong Kong Ballet, Hong Kong Dance Company that employ, you know, 60, 70 people, are still functioning and everybody is being paid their full wages, as is all the people who work at the Hong Kong Academy. But what is very beautiful is that they're thinking of how they can reach out and support their alumni, for example, who are independent artists. Whereas in Malaysia, if this is the struggle that I face with my company, the Ask Dance company, that the 10 dancers who work at that company, this is the only job that they have. They don't have any other salary. They don't have any other income. So for me to strategize, which I do frequently and constantly, as to how we're going to take it back up, but also to keep them, to make them feel that they're emotionally supported at this time, because it is a very difficult time and it's quite easy for them to get down on themselves. We need to plan and to think. And so this is what we're talking about. So next year, my company celebrates the 10th anniversary. So I'm like, we got to make it to 10. Okay, we have to make it to 10. So yes, and just like Master Ramli was talking about, you know, like talking to Anthony May, I speak to him regularly because he deals with the same kinds of issues of keeping a company professional.
Who is he? I don't know him.
He runs the Dua Space Dance company that has been established for a very long time. It's a full-time company where dancers earn their wages through the company work.
What is the style of dance that they
Anthony was formerly with Cloudgate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an
this-
offspring of
yeah,
Cloudgate.
very modern.
Yes.
Okay. In
So
Taiwan.
we're talking about how to kickstart the company again, because we have a space where we run classes, and so it was actually on an upswing, and then now it's like all ground to a halt. So we have to pick it up again, and this is what we have to do, and this is no other way. So we got to do it, and we've got to find a way to knock on doors, to get sponsorship, to get our performances up and running again, because we have already, actually, we spent a lot of money already preparing for the concert that didn't happen. And then now it has to start all over again. But, you know, we just have to do it. And this is what we do.
Yeah.
So we've got to have that attitude, and we've just got to get up and get on with it, you know?
And the thing
and
is that here in New York, for example, I mean, the restaurants, the small businesses, they've all been shut down. There's, you know, many of them are going through the soul searching process and at the ledger paper to figure out, can they actually reopen? It's questionable for many of them. And it's
Yes.
really tragic, but I love your spirit. I love the fact that it's not negotiable. This thing will go on. You will make it to the 10th anniversary and beyond, I'm sure. Ramli,
Yes.
what about you? How do you see, you talked about being reflective and taking advantage of this rare, the first 3
Yes.
weeks anyway, the rare opportunity to be quiet in a world
we are
where we
not
don't
as-
need to be
as,
quiet.
Lucky.
Pardon
Yeah,
me?
we're not as lucky as in our sponsorship, because I think with Joseph being part of the more or less quasi-government or government organization, cultural organization, the funding is better, but I'm not sure about his dance.
No, not at all, actually, Ramli. We're not.
Because of his dance company, he is
Yeah,
an
I'm not
independent.
talking about the school.
But are you still under Sam Dabi's funding, Joseph?
Being renegotiated right now.
Well, there you are. You have been funded. So we have not any funding. You know, so that
Right.
put us.
What kind of funding was that you were speaking about?
So we do this national outreach program, which has been incredibly successful in reaching out to tens of thousands of people, and we teach them traditional dance and sometimes even hip hop or whatever we think is right. And it has evolved over the years.
In Kuala Lumpur or in other parts of the country?
Yeah, nationwide.
Okay.
Nationwide, yes.
So that's an income. That's been an income stream for the company.
Yes, so it's a source of funding for us when we run that, but it's really not enough, as we all know. We do international tours for which we don't receive funding from Sime Darby, or sometimes we manage to apply for some money from Chandana, so they have given us some money.
Is that a foundation?
Yeah, it's a part of the government. I'm not exactly sure what the structure is, but you get maybe 20 to 50% of monies if you're lucky to travel overseas. We have spent a fortune of our own money to do this, you know. So while Ramli looks at me and says, oh, we do receive all this money, I look at him and see all these wonderful people who come to his shows, and I'm like, oh my God, they're throwing money at his feet. I wish they would do it to me, you know.
That's the art of living. But Jonathan, what we do is, because we are much smaller, we are much more versatile. So we really look at how is that situation and literally make full use of that situation. So our community reach is extremely intense, you know, performing in temples, and, you know, our outreach program, actually, if you have seen some of the kids that have come out of it, are absolutely wonderful.
Beautiful. I've seen some.
They are not only trained in modern dance, but also in the classical dance of Bharatanatyam and Odissi. So they really were pioneers at that time. When
and I do want to ask, just for our audience sake, okay, you are Malaysian, and yet you are doing an Indian classical dance form. What kind of tension does that provoke in the country?
I mean, that's almost a passé thing, but, you know, the recent WhatsApp I sent you was the performance that we did at the Dewan Philharmonic with the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, when we did the 3 works of Debussy, Ravel, and Stravinsky. And I did mention at that time, when we were doing the La Comédie d'un Faune of Debussy, it also went into the avatars of performing with your dancer, Sean Scantlebury. So we are not just Indian classical dance, but we forayed into many contemporary work and had pioneered many contemporary modern dance.
And of course, you had training in Australia. Your training has crossed over many different styles.
Yes, correct. So our future one, we might be looking at maybe very small SOP, standard operating procedures of audiences, of small studio performances of young dancers. We want to, you know, because these are dancers of 15, 16, 17, who are just need that exposure and challenge of performances. And there had been a whole schedule and calendar of events happening for the whole of this year, next year, which we have to now stagger so that we can keep on that with the new conditional movement control order, you know. But I think we will still, but I think there will be, where Sutra is concerned, we strong concentration on teaching. Because there had been a strong performance kind of thing in the last 3 years. And I feel that my dances were over, there were just too many performances for something, because we are not professional companies. But they were being asked like professionals to perform so many. We had done so many big tours of India, Jonathan, and so, you know, all these.
And you also received one of India's highest awards, the Padma Shri. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes.
So
that is
for a Malaysian to get that award.
I
is
know,
quite
that's
something.
so amazing. I mean, something that we all celebrate. I mean, this is huge for us, you know, as artists. Something that we can all, you know, enjoy, celebrate, look up to, and, you know,
whatever that means. But I think I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I just, in a way, I do move forward, but moving forward with a certain kind of going with the flow, because we know that certain things we just cannot control.
I know.
Like
I mean, that my way of saying the same thing is to say that all of our evolution is organic. We didn't sit down with some kind of experts from McKinsey and figure out the 5-year or 10-year strategic plan. You know, from dancer to choreographer to teacher to entrepreneur, you know, all of these things have been very fluid for the 3 of us. And I think we share that. And what I'm, as we end this interview, what I my takeaway just listening to the two of you is there's no discussion about, you know, rethinking our careers, retiring. No, it's all about carrying on in whatever the environment is. And I think
Correct.
that,
Correct.
you know,
Correct.
that Ramli, you had a background in Australia, and then you came to Malaysia. You've spent a lot of time in India. Joseph, you did this transition after many years in Malaysia to Hong Kong, and yet you carry with you internally and in your core this passion about dance, this passion about communication, this passion about this art form that we love. And this
Yes.
is something that brings us together in this conversation.
And Jonathan, the universality of dance, you know, I mean, you talk about Australia, but, you know, I spent some impressionable days in America with the American Dance Festival.
I should have mentioned that. Yes, of course. And
yeah,
that's
but
where
in
we
New York
met
with,
in New
yes,
York.
Asian Cultural Council, you know, meeting Indrani, you know, so that kind of Indian dance connection with New York, with modern dance, is quite incredible.
I
But I must
remember,
say,
I just have to say, a memory of you in my studio.
yes,
We didn't know each other, but Indrani was the go-between, and you came
yes.
and rehearsed in my studio, and I sort of
Not only that, I remember climbing up that steps to your.
nobody ever forgets the stairs.
How
Okay, I
incredible.
think we're running out of time on our Zoom,
Okay.
but it's clear that we could go on for hours. Thank you so much for
Thank
contributing
you.
in this. I think it's 10:30 at
Okay.
night.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay
Take
safe,
care.
both of you. Take
You
care.
too.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful.
Good
Bye.
night.
गणतक ताता धीनक धीनिता धै धीनक धीनिता ताता धीनक धीनिता गणतक धै धीनक धीनिता ताता धीनक धीनिता गणतक धै धीनक धीनिता गणतक तातक धीनक धीनिता ताग धाग धिनी धाग धिनी धाग धिनी ता धिन धिनक धिनी धाग धाग धिनी ताग धिनी ता धिन धिनक धिनी धिंदा धिन धिना ता धिन धिना 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 धिन धिना ता धिन धिना धिंदा धिन धिना ता धिन धिना धिंदा धिन धिना ता धिन धिना तत् धैर्ग धै धैर्ग धै धैर्ग धै धैर्ग धै तत् धैर्ग धै धैर्ग धै धैर्ग धै धैर्ग तरै तग दिघन धै तरै तग दिघन धै tari kita tak tari kita jenam ta jam tari jam tak thalang tak da 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 ga di gan tari ta jam ta kita tari ta jam ta kita tari ta jam ta kita tak jam tak jam tak jam tak thalang tak da 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 ga di gan da da ga di gan da ga di gan tari ta jam ta kita tari ta jam ta kita tari ta jam ta kita tak jam tak jam tari tari ta jam tari jam tari ta jam jam tari jam tari kira chedu kita tari ta jena tajanam 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 kira chedu kita tari ta jena tajanam 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 ta tari ta jam ta tari ta jam ta tari ta jam tari jam tari tata jena tari kita tata jena tata jena tari kita tata jena drimi drimi ta kita tata jena drimi drimi ta kita tata jena kita ta jhenita jhenuta drimita kita ta jhenuta dhage dada dina jhenam ta kita ta gadig tari dada dina dhage dada dina jhenam ta kita ta gadig tag 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 da 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 tag tag digan tag ta thei tag ta tag ta tag kit tag thei tag tag digan tag ta thei tag ta tag ta tag kit tag thei thei ta kit ta tag kar thei na kit tag tag tari kit tag thei kit tag tag tari kit tag jhenam ta kit ta tag ta ta jhena dhakit tak jhena kit dha dha tin tak ta jhena dha din tak din tak din tak din tak din tak din dhakit tak jhena kit dha dha tin tak ta jhena dha din tak din tak din tak din tak din tak din dha dha ga din thei dha dha ga din thei dha dha ga din thei ta thei dha dha ga din thei dha dha ga din thei dha dha ga din thei ta thei dha dha ga din thei dha dha ga din thei dha dha ga din thei ta jham ta jham ta jham ta chenu ta jham ta jham ta jham ta chenu ta jham ta jham ta jham ta tari ta chenu ta jham ta jham ta tari ta chenu ta jhenam ta tari ta ta jhenu kita ta jhenam ta tari ta ta jhenu kita ta dhei ta dhei ta dhei ta dhei ta dhei ta ta thini thina kadtak ta thini thina kadtak ta thini thina jana ta ta jana ta jham ta jham ta thini thina kadtak ta thini thina kadtak ta thini thina jana ta jham ta jham ta jham ta tari ta chenu ta taki taki ta taki ta taki ta taki ta 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 tari kita tari ta ko tari kita ta taki taki ta taki ta taki ta taki ta 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 tari kita tari ta ko tari kita ta taki taki ta taki ta ta tak tari kita tak tari ta jadi kita dai
Magari sa re ni sa dha ni sa re sa.
Takita takita tak tha tha ga digna the.
Sa re sa ma ga ma dha pa sa ni da pa ma.
Ta the kita tha tha ga digna the.
Da ni re sa ni da pa ma ga ma.
Hey te ta kita tha tha kita.
Sa dha pa ma sa dha pa ma sa dha pa ma ga re sa.
Ta the ta ga digna the.
Ma ga ma dha pa ma ga re sa re ni sa dha ni re sa.
Takita takita tha ga digna the.
Sa re sa ma ga ma dha pa da ni pa da ni re sa.
Takita tha ga digna the.
Sa ni da da pa pa ma ga ma da pa ma ga re sa.
Ta tak the. Dina kita takita the.
Sa re da pa ma ga re ma ga re sa ni sa.
Hey ta kita ta.
Sa re ma ga ma da pa da ni sa.
Hey ta.
Sa re ma ga ma da pa da ni sa. Sa re ma ga ma da pa da ni sa. Sa re ma ga ma da pa da ni sa. Jamta jaun